Good evening. My name is Matthew Ogden. I'm an editor with LaRouchePAC.com, and I would like to welcome you to tonight's broadcast on the LaRouche PAC website. You're tuning into the weekly Friday night live webcast with Mr. Lyndon LaRouche. This is going to be the broadcast for March 22nd, 2013. We will be following our usual format tonight, except, again, as we did last week, Mr. LaRouche has requested that tonight we again begin with a question that has come in from a very high-level institutional source in Washington, D.C. So I will begin tonight's broadcast by reading this question to Mr. LaRouche. The question reads, Mr. LaRouche, in light of your comments last week, and in anticipation of the weekend Schiller Institute conference coming up this Saturday, commemorating the 30th anniversary of President Ronald Reagan's SDI speech, we would like you to answer the following question. There is, to this day, significant debate over whether the Reagan SDI offer, in which you played a crucial role, was a failure or a success. Significant scientific and technological progress has been made towards realizing the dream of mutually assured survival, and there are efforts that you cited last week to revive the Russian-American cooperation at the highest level. What lessons are to be learned, and what is to be done to assure that this collaboration between two great nations can actually succeed fully this time? Thank you.
Well, this occurred under special circumstances. It started to move shortly in the latter part of that decade, and I had some influence in various quarters. I actually initiated a good deal of this, but it would not have happened by my initiations, but a number of people who have been leaders in the intelligence community of the United States for some time came forward to me and suggested we start talking about things. This led into the condition where we had representatives from Germany, leading figures from Germany, leading figures from France, leading figures from Italy, leading figures from other parts of the world, including Argentina, for example. And the agreement was we should move in that direction. The thing was decided through a process which I was involved in. It's on the record. And President Ronald Reagan, at that time, pushed it through. Now, unfortunately, we had, in the same time, we had a change in the leadership of the Soviet Union. And a British influence, shall I say, bum, was then the head of the Soviet Union. He sabotaged the effort, but it was he was simply acting as a British agent under the orders from the Queen of England at that time. So, but Reagan was committed to going forward with this. He'd made another public attempt at that before. He made a speech on that subject, as well as the negotiations he made. He made remarks toward the end of his career that whether or not it was going to be done in his time, it had to be done. And I think that is a proper part of the whole process. He not only had picked up on the SDI, he'd been inspired on that not just by me, but by others. He went for it again, the second attempt through the U.S. to get this thing going. And when he was about to leave office, he said he would bequeath this responsibility to somebody because it had to be realized in the future for mankind. So that was the essence of the matter. As to the quality of the effort made then, I would say from my personal knowledge, because I was dealing with the people and institutions involved, and I knew them and knew what their opinions were at that time, that this attempt is something which was merely postponed. We've now come to the point that it would not be possible to postpone it longer. But the fact that we did it first that we repeated the effort was essential to our ability to bring it off now. Without what we had done, my own role was about the last quarter of the 1970s. And I had initiated this, but I had picked up all these responsibilities as well. And with all these steps, which we made, step by step, the preconditions for ever bringing in an SDI would never have happened. So what those who are responsible today face the responsibility of fulfilling something which was necessary even then and is more necessary than ever today. Without the precedent we set during the late 1970s and the beginning of the 1980s, it would never have been made possible. So I can speak for a lot of people who are now deceased. I'm magically not quite deceased. And they did their duty. And if there's any possibility of saving humanity today from a terrible outcome, much is owed to them. The present point is that we've got to, the whole world system, as a monetary system, as a financial system and so forth, is in its present form, is doomed to extinction. It could be the extinction of nations because they're no longer functional. Or it could be the extinction of the populations of nations because a thermonuclear war is launched. And we were on the edge of the potentiality of a thermonuclear war under this current President of the United States, and particularly under the Queen, who is his real master. So therefore, what's being done on this now is something which is essential for all mankind. And the people in the U.S. military establishment who are leading their part in this job are actually now an integral, essential part of what is needed if this is ever going to come off, which means if civilization as we have known it ever exists after these times.